Okay, example 4. Let's read example 4 carefully. The midpoint of a segment is located at 1, 2. So right there, this is already a little bit different because we have the midpoint. We have one of the endpoints at 4, 3. What is the location of the other endpoint? So here, we're going to have to work it backwards, okay? Here, since we know the midpoint, we know the endpoint, I got to figure out, hey, what is the other location of the endpoint that can work out to be at 1, 2 for the midpoint? So let's go back to talk about how we calculate a midpoint again. It's the average of the x's, comma, average of the y's. That gives you the midpoint. It just so happens here that I know what the midpoint is. I know the midpoint is at 1, 2. What I want to figure out is, hey, if one endpoint is at 4, where does the other endpoint have to be then at? 4 plus what divided by 2 is going to give me 1, because these are my x's. This is the x and y. So I'm creating two small equations here. 4 plus what divided by 2 gives me 1 for the x location of the midpoint. Now on the y's, the endpoint is located at 3. 3 plus what y divided by 2 gives me then the midpoint's y coordinate of 2. So I, like I said, create two small mini equations. So 4 plus what divided by 2 gives me 1. So I'm going to solve this out by multiplying both sides by 2. Kind of running out of room here, going into the next problem. These 2's will cancel out. I'm left with 4 plus x. X gives me negative 2. I repeat that on the y's. Multiply both sides by 2. 2's will cancel out. I get 4. And then I subtract a 3. And I get y to be 1. So what I just found then is the other endpoint. The other endpoint is located at negative 2 for x and y to be 1. Now, how can I check to see if that endpoint is correct? Well, you could do the distance formula. You can do the midpoint formula. If this is at negative 2, 1, and the other one was located at 4, 3, if you find the midpoint of that two endpoints now, it should turn out to be at 1, 2. So in your head, you could do for the x's. Well, what's negative 2 plus 4? 2. What's 2 divided by 2? 1. So far, so good. 1 plus 3 for the y's is 4. 4 divided by 2 is at 2, and we're good then to check our answers for the midpoint, okay? This is the one that students usually have a rough time with because you're working it backwards. You're having to create two equations for that, but you want to keep in mind midpoint is the average of the x's, and you're trying to then figure out, in this instance, what's that other value have to be to get that midpoint. That's my reminder. Class is about to start. So I'm going to upload